Assalamualaikum guys, welcome back. Let's get into it.
What do we get from Israel, do you feel like?
We got a lot of countries that hate us is one of the things we get.
Well, especially right now with this stuff in Gaza, I think Israel's, it's one of the worst PR campaigns I've ever seen in my life. If they're even, it doesn't make any sense to me. It's like, I just don't, it gives their government this extremely evil look to me, and I think to a lot of people,
Well, rough numbers, there are 2 million people in Gaza and 50,000 have been killed. That's 2.5%. Like they've killed 1 in 40 people in Gaza. If you did that in the United States, if you did 2.5% of 350 million, it'd be almost 10 million people dead in the United States. Everybody in Gaza is at this point related to somebody who's been killed. Like at least a first cousin you had killed. And then if you say how many have been maimed, it's probably 3 or 4 times that. So everybody in Gaza knows people who've been killed and maimed.
And we're supporting it, right? That's also the part that makes it really tough sometimes to just be a person. It's like our tax money is going towards this, but I just hope that people in some of these other countries know that, it's not regular everyday people who would want to do these things, that it's like governments making these choices.
I wouldn't send them a dime. Like that's my position. I don't think whatever we're getting isn't worth it. And don't ask me to articulate the benefit because I think the cost is greater than the benefit. Everybody in Gaza is at this point has to hate Israel, right? And by extension, those bombs, when they see American politicians go over there and like sign the freaking bombs that are going to kill women and children. So there's by the way, there are 2 kinds of lobbying groups. Mm-hmm. There's access lobbying. That's where they're all your friends. They're never mean to you. Even if they don't like you, they'll buy you a steak dinner. And they'll try to get you to hear out their point of view. And they figure, as long as I can get in that person's office, I'm doing well for the people I'm lobbying for. Okay. But then there are confrontational lobbyists like AIPAC. And AIPAC has transitioned into a confrontational lobbying group where if you don't do what they want.
I would like to add on the topic that, that's one of the reasons you have immigration problem. Why there's so many people from the Middle East or Asia or something. Because it's Western intervention. They're coming and bombing the country and they have to flee. That's why you have so much immigration problem. If you don't want immigration problem, don't fight. Don't go to other people's country and dictate what to do and what not to do. Fix the country first. That's the whole people complaining for.
They come after you.
Wow.
The ceasefire, the Israelis or the Iranians?
I think it was mainly the Israelis who sought the ceasefire, and the Iranians were interested in the ceasefire. But there's no question the Israelis were in big trouble. And Netanyahu and others in the Israeli administration were making the point that they were not prepared to fight a war of attrition. This was clearly evolving into a war of attrition. And in terms of resolve, the Iranians had a great advantage over the Israelis, who are not tough enough to withstand a lengthy war of attrition like the one that was developing. But also the Israelis were running out of weaponry and their economy was being badly damaged. So they wanted to put an end to the war. And they went to Trump and Trump did it.
How badly damaged was Israel? Stated differently, how badly did the Israeli leadership underestimate the firepower and resilience of the Iranians?
Well, it's very hard to figure out exactly how much damage was done because the Israelis have gone to enormous lengths to make it impossible for us to figure out how much damage was done. And the reason is that a lot of damage was done. But based on the evidence that we have, it's quite clear that significant damage was done to all sorts of buildings inside of Tel Aviv, to the port in Haifa, to Israel's refining capability. Its airport was shut down during the conflict, which had all sorts of economic consequences. And moreover, it's very important to point out that the Israeli population was not only not used to being attacked like this, it didn't think it could happen. And this has had a really significant effect on the Israeli psyche. And that, again, is one of the reasons I believe that Netanyahu was interested in shutting down the war. He was receiving a lot of pressure from down below. The public was deeply unhappy about what was happening. And if that war had continued for weeks and then months and then years.
You know, to add on that as well, that, Israel knew that they couldn't fight Iran like a full war. That's why they wanted the America to step in, which they did, but it didn't escalate because Iran don't want to escalate. You know what I mean? They they shut they had a base in Qatar. They shut down. They didn't shut down. They went to the Qataris and told them, "Listen, we're gonna fire missiles at the U.S. base over there, so you can easily shoot them down." And gave them a heads up before taking action. That only shows that they don't want no escalate this. And obviously, we know that. To be honest, they can't take on America and Israel at the same time. So yeah.
Years, it would have had a devastating effect on Israel.
Came out in the last hour in the Washington Post. I couldn't believe it. So I looked it up. It's true. Sorry, guys. Obviously, I'm enraged here. I got to a point where I can't take it anymore. Does my life matter? Does my life matter? Does my family's life matter? Okay, here's what Israel did according to the Washington Post in Iran. There's an audio recording that the Washington Post has gotten. It says in the recording that Israeli intelligence calls Iranian generals, and they say, "I can advise you now, you have 12 hours to escape with your wife and child. Otherwise, you're on the list right now, on our list right now." And an Israeli intelligence operative told a senior Iranian general close to the country's rulers, according to the audio recording. The operative then suggested that Israel could train weapons on the general and his family at any moment. Quote, "We're closer to you than your own neck vein. Put this in your head. May God protect you," he said. So look, you want to do psyops, you want to threaten their generals, I get it. You call up and say, "We're going to murder your children." You know what? Who does that? Terrorists do that. Absolute stone cold terrorists do that. And have they murdered their children? Yes. I mean, in Gaza, there's 17,000 dead kids. And in Iran, do you know that they murdered their scientists in front of a kindergarten earlier? They have no qualms. They murder civilians, they murder scientists, they murder kids. They murdered over 200 innocent civilians in their first bombing raid. But with American media, it never matters because those are just Muslim lives. And you could threaten to murder Muslim children, and as long as it's beloved moral army Israel, they'll say, "Oh, it's great, it's wonderful, they're our special ally." So no, that is not a special ally. It is a despicable government, despicable. I wondered what I would have done if I was around during the Holocaust. I do not wonder anymore. I would have fought it with everything I had. And as the media probably would have said, well, look, the Germans had to defend themselves. They had to defend themselves. It's the fault of the other people. They were threatening Germany's expansion. And Germany had to expand for self-defense. And that is what they said.
You see this type of action that happens in movies. The bad guy, when he wants something, he destroys everyone, even the women and children. Usually who depicts it is the bad guy. But you can't say that about the people who are doing it in this day and age. Because you become branded as anti-Semitic. Double standards, isn't it? You can't say anything. Just keep your mouth shut.
It was for a self-defense. And so I'm sick of your expansion, I'm sick of your wars, and I'm sick of us having to pay for all.
If Iran...
Are you from Iran?
No, I'm not from Iran, I'm from the UK. But if the intelligence reports conclude that Iran can enrich uranium to a level that concerns you, would you consider bombing the country again?
Without question, absolutely.
And have you had any conversations?
Turned out to be unbelievable. But our incredible flyers and I call them the shots. These guys are unbelievable. Think from 52,000 feet, they hit the equivalent of a refrigerator door. They actually hit it right in the center, so it's much smaller than that.
Israel is threatening to break the ceasefire. Of course! So their defense minister, Israel Katz, said that if Iran goes towards developing any nuclear facility or any long range missiles, which almost all countries have, they'll start bombing them again. But wait a minute, that's not part of a ceasefire. You don't get to just bomb the other country. And what they're saying, Iran can never have any defensive system at all from now on. Otherwise, Israel will bomb them, invade them, and attack them. And that's their idea of a ceasefire. And they said, we're going to do times Lebanon times 100. Well, what are they doing in Lebanon? After they wiped out Hezbollah, do you know that they've been bombing Lebanon ever since? And they say, well, just in case they come back. It is aggressive imperial war and bombing from Israel nonstop. And now they're saying they're going to do it again in Iran. That is not a ceasefire.
Israel is now being accused of drugging the population of Gaza because when they started opening bags of flour that has been distributed to Palestinians by the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, which is funded and controlled by the US and Israel, they found pills inside of it. And they thought they would test the pills and they found out it was oxycodone. And you would probably think that maybe somebody's just trying to smuggle things into Gaza. But then they tested the flour and found out that the pills were crushed up into the flour. This is not a joke. This has been tested by a pharmacist and a doctor. And if Israel want to accuse anybody of lying about this, saying maybe it's just propaganda that Hamas are trying to come up with, well, why don't you let journalists into Gaza? Why don't you let people independently report on this or test this to see if these are lies? If this is true, this is a war crime beyond belief in so many different ways. Oxycodone is responsible for hundreds of thousands of deaths just in America. It is such a potent and strong opioid that something like this used against a population hidden in their food is beyond anything that I could have thought of that they would do. I still somehow find myself shocked. I see reports of videos of things happening and I have unfortunately become almost numb to that in a way. Nothing shocks me anymore, but this is something that I couldn't have imagined.
Israel is poisoning the aid they let into Gaza. When I saw today trucks loaded with bags of flour entering Gaza, my first thought was they poisoned it. They wouldn't let aid inside Gaza at all. Pharmacists in Gaza found whole pills of oxycodone in the flour, but they say the whole flour is spiked with that. Here's some infos about oxycodone and what it does to the body. Oxycodone is a potent opioid typically used to relieve severe pain when regular painkillers fail, especially for cancer patients. The drug acts on receptors in the nervous system, causing intense addiction, slowed heart rate, impaired consciousness, and in severe cases, dangerous respiratory depression. The pharmacist warns that prolonged exposure can strip individuals of their identity, leaving them a shadow of their former selves. Even more alarming, experts in Gaza have revealed that the drug is not only hidden inside flour bags, but the flour itself appears to be mixed with it. At this point, I only want to say, my dear Palestinians, if you receive baby formula, please test the baby formula. Those monsters have zero red lines, no humanity, no empathy, no nothing. They are pure evil. If you receive baby formula, test it.
How low can you go? You know, they're deliberately killing kids and people. You know, baby formula, flour. Come on, really? You gonna do such thing? At this point, I'm not surprised. I'll be honest. You know, really heard what the top generals are saying about these people. Anyway, the Palestinians. You know, we had them. We would say their own civilians saying stuff like this. You know, the offspring need to be killed or whatnot. You know.
Test it.
شوف شوف بسجل انا شوف شوف بسجل انا المستودع شوف
Israeli forces killed Jalal's brother Bilal in 1992. At the time, a Swedish journalist, Donald Bostrom, made suggestions Bilal's organs may have been stolen and sold off by Israeli soldiers before the body was given back to the family.
We were called at midnight to collect the body. It was all stitched up and as if the body was empty. We were told to bring cement to bury the body with. The soldiers watched as we dug the grave.
According to the recent article written by Donald Bostrom recounting claims he made years earlier, Palestinians and UN workers told him they suspected Israeli soldiers were trafficking Palestinian organs. The article points out that then Health Minister Ehud Olmert was leading a campaign encouraging Israelis to register for organ donation because of a huge shortage.
But it came as a great shock to me, and through various travels, to learn that a Brooklyn network of organs traffickers was nested right here in the Hasidic community in Williamsburg and in Borough Park. And the name of the man who led it was Isaac Rosenbaum.
Well, Isaac Rosenbaum first came to our attention, and specifically to the FBI's attention, through a cooperating witness we had as part of an investigation. It was a very far-reaching investigation into political corruption in New Jersey, as well as money laundering and associated crimes amongst some Orthodox Jewish communities that were based here in New Jersey. And the FBI and the U.S. Attorney's Office immediately seized upon it as a serious crime and something we were very anxious to investigate.
He was born in Israel, born in Tel Aviv, not a citizen of the United States. He's lived abroad elsewhere. He knows the world pretty well, and he's very well connected. He saw that there was a desperate need or demand for kidney transplant because many people suffer from kidney disease. It's a very democratic disease. The Israelis do have a pretty high rate of kidney failure. So the demand is there. The community is broad because it's not just Israel, but it is the larger diasporic community linked to Israel. He was bringing Israeli patients in, and then he was bringing with them someone who was posing as an altruistic donor. He was the one to go to. He's very charming. He could go to hospitals, and he could actually...
Yeah, I'm gonna end the video there, guys. This is horrendous act. What these people are doing. Anyways, I'm gonna end it there. And if you're new to the channel, please like, share, and subscribe. Assalamu alaikum.